Most young halves say they want to lead their team around the park. They want to run the side, they want to be the little general. But here's the truth. You don't get what you want, you get what you work for. Because you know what? Everyone wants those things. But wanting doesn't make it happen. The will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win. And if you want to learn how to control a rugby league game as a halfback, then it's going to be hours of preparation that make the difference. Time spent on specific, deliberate training aimed at improving your skills, your physical preparation, on developing the ability to engage the defensive line, and last but not least, developing the command and control side of the game, where you learn to manage the game, to lead your team, and take full control of the tempo and direction of your side. If you do that, you'll take your game management to a whole new level, and you'll put yourself in the position to not just control the game, but dominate it. And in this final tier of the halfback pyramid, that's exactly what we're talking about, command and control. So today we're going to be going through tier 3 of the halfback pyramid, and I'm going to be sharing with you the one training tactic that, if used properly, will bring everything else together. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Joe Murphy. I co-founded League Fit Academy 9 years ago to help young rugby league players build their body, their skills and their mind. And we now work with thousands of players all over the globe, from juniors in under 12s right through to players preparing to go into their first full-time NRL preseason. And over all those years, one thing has become clear. There's a massive difference between a half who just plays some good footy and a half who runs the show. And that difference is what tier 3 is all about, what we call command and control. But what does that mean exactly? Well, first, those are military terms. So let's start by looking at it from a military perspective. First, command. The person in command is the one who's in charge. They make decisions, assign missions which are designed to achieve a particular outcome. They allocate resources, and essentially they're the one that's held accountable for outcomes. Okay, that's command. Now, control. Control is more about the actual execution. It refers to the systems and procedures and communications used to carry out the commander's intent effectively. Good control ensures units are coordinated, information flows up and down the chain of command, and people can adapt to changing situations. So command is essentially leadership and decision making, and control is organisation and communication. Right, so how does this apply to rugby league, and more specifically to you as a halfback? Well, when we're talking about command and control in the context of the halfback pyramid, you're the commander on the field. So command means you take ownership of the team's direction. You call the shots, you decide where the play goes, you identify any weaknesses you see on the field, like a fullback who's out of place, or a winger who's not wide enough and he's left some space on the outside, or maybe there's a middle forward who's gassed out, he's out on his feet and he's a liability in the middle of the field. As the half, you need to see those things and make sure the team takes advantage of them. Okay, that's command. Now, control. Control is how you actually make that happen. It's how well you communicate. It's how you organise your forwards. It's how you get everyone on your team to the right place at the right time and make sure that the set flows the way that it's supposed to. It's when you see, that opposition middle forward that's gassed out on his feet, like that we mentioned earlier, and it's not just recognising that as an opportunity, but having the skill set to make adjustments to what your side's doing to take advantage of that opportunity, right? So that's control. So command is taking ownership of the team's direction, and control is how well you can organise and communicate to make that happen. So what that means for you as a halfback who's looking to be a game manager and a leader on the rugby league field is that A, you need to make a decision about what your side's going to do, and B, you need to effectively communicate that decision to your team and then lead and organise them to actually do it. And achieving this comes down to two things. It's about knowing what to do and about how to go about doing it. We call that knowledge and application. One without the other is useless. It's no good knowing the set structure that you're supposed to be using if you're too timid to yell at your teammates to get them into the right position to run the plays that they're supposed to be running and have the set play out the way it's supposed to play out. So often you see halves blame the players around them for not getting into the right shape to run a play. But when you speak to those other players, they didn't even know what that play was that they were supposed to be running. Why? Because the half didn't communicate with them. And on that point, let's have a little bit of a side note here. You standing on the field, looking at the ruck and then half turning your head and yelling a play over your shoulder, that's not communicating, all right? If the players you're communicating with haven't clearly heard your instructions, understood those instructions, and then started to act to follow those instructions, then the communication has broken down on your end, not theirs. So let's look at a definition to make this crystal clear. To communicate means to share information clearly and effectively so that someone else understands it and can act on it. If they don't understand it, then you didn't communicate well enough with them. So knowledge and application is knowing what you need to do and how to go about doing it. So let's start by talking about the knowledge side of things, okay? Now, what do you actually need knowledge of? To be a good halfback, you need knowledge of three things. First, you need to know your team structures, as in the different types of sets that you can run, and just as importantly, when to run them. Second, you need to know the individual plays that exist within those set structures themselves. And for each and every one of those plays, you've got to know who should be where and then when they need to be there by. And thirdly, you need knowledge of your teammates. You've got to know their strengths, their weaknesses, where they fit into the individual plays themselves, as well as the team structure as a whole. Now, I'm going to repeat it because repetition deepens the impression. You need to know your team structures, including when to use them. You need to know the individual plays that exist within those set structures, and you need knowledge of your teammates. That's the knowledge that you need, because the best communication in the world means nothing if you've got nothing valuable to communicate. Because as the halfback, you need to be across every single detail. You need to know those three areas as much, if not more, than the coach, because the coach isn't going to be on the field with you, right? It's up to you to take control and lead the side around. And this is where your communication comes in. Now, we spoke about this earlier, about what communication means, which is you've said something, they've heard you say it, and they've understood what it is that you're really asking them to do, and they've acted on it, okay? That's communication. Now, this is so important because it's the one thing to have the knowledge about how, say, your set should work. It's another thing entirely to get the 12 other players in your side to run that set properly. So here's 3 simple steps to help making communicating with your teammates much more effective. Step 1, you need to know who gets it and who doesn't. At training, pay attention. You'll start to notice which players pick things up quickly and which players just kind of nod along but still really don't know what's going on. And as the halfback, that's important because the way you communicate to player A, who knows the shape and positioning, is very different to how you communicate to player B, who constantly gets timing wrong or forget who he's running off. Communication isn't just barking orders, it's about adjusting your message to the person you're delivering it to. Step 2, direct your message clearly and repeat if necessary. If you know someone's struggling to get the timing right on a sweep play at training, you don't just need to yell at them, get deeper and move on. You've got to find a way to get through to them. Break the movement down, show them where to start from, get them to walk it through. Explain the line they're supposed to be running and repeat it until it clicks. That's what good communication looks like. Not just giving directions, but making sure those directions actually land. And trust me, if you're doing this at training, leading your teammates through set plays and ball work, all while staying patient, then by the time you actually get out onto the field, your team will trust your voice, follow your direction, and they'll look to you when it matters most. And that's what leadership is about. Now, step 3 is to use your teammates to help. You can't micromanage every player on the field, and that's not your job, but you can delegate. If one of your edge forwards, let's say, understands the system really well, use him. Get him to talk to the center or the winger outside him. Get him to lead that edge. You're still in charge, but now you've got lieutenants helping you carry out the plan. Look, most teams have a few players that they're a bit of a space cadet, off with the fairies, however you want to describe it. They might be good footballers, but they're not good at remembering where they're supposed to be during sets. But by using the more switched on players that are around them, you can help get them in the right position, okay? That's control, that's smart communication, and that's leadership. And once you learn how to do this properly, you'll start to notice something. You don't have to yell as much, and you don't have to over-explain because your players start trusting you. And that is what command and control is really about. Knowing your stuff, communicating clearly, and making sure the whole team is pulling in the same direction. Right, so we've talked about command and control and how command is essentially leadership and decision making, and control is organization and communication. We've also talked about how they can be further broken down into knowledge and application, with knowledge referring to you needing to know your team structure, the individual plays that exist within that structure, and that you also need solid knowledge of your teammates, of their strengths and their weaknesses, and that finally brings us to application. The first component of which is communication. And I just gave you 3 steps that you can use to make your communication better. That was the first component of application. The second component of application, and what turns out to be the key to not just the third tier of the pyramid, but the entire pyramid itself. It's the one thing that will truly elevate your game as a halfback, and it's the one thing that will take you from being just a handy football player to becoming a genuine leader, where every part of your game starts to come together. That thing is what we call shadow ball work. So let's jump into that right now, okay? So what is shadow ball work? Well, it's a rugby league variation of a boxing method called shadow boxing. Shadow boxing is where a fighter throws punches in the air with no opponent to practice technique, footwork, rhythm, and strategy. It's been around for over a century and become a staple in boxing training because it allows fighters to refine their technique, mentally rehearse fight scenarios, and build coordination and timing. Legendary boxers like Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson helped make shadow boxing famous, often seen moving around the ring, visualizing their opponent, and sharpening their skills all on their own. Boxers do it because it's both simple and effective. It's where they sharpen their craft without needing anyone else. And that's exactly why we've adapted it to rugby league. So how does it work and how do you do it? Basically, you go down to a local field on your own and literally run through your sets. And when I say run through your set, I want you to do it just like this. You're going to pick a set type, the same type of set that your team would be using in a game from the point on your field that you're currently standing right now. Let's say that set name is Rabbitohs, right? I want you to call the set name Rabbitohs out loud enough that both wingers on opposite side of the field would be able to hear you if they were standing there. Next, you're going to call out the first play, and you're going to be calling out the player's name that you want to be running that play. Let's say it's just a straight up hit up off the hooker, and your team's name for that play is a drive. Okay, the player's name you want to run it is Henry, and you want him taking it on the left side of the ruck. So you literally turn to where Henry would be standing and say, Henry, drive left, get there, and make sure to use the same volume in your voice that you should and you would be using in a game situation. And then you turn to your fullback. His name is Baz. Baz, push up with him, push up with him. You have the first play of the set sorted. Henry's taking a hit up and your fullback Baz is pushing up with him in support. Now, just as Henry and Baz are getting themselves into position for that first play, you're already moving further across the field for the second play of the set, which is a double X play. And your team's name for that is a double D because it's a double drop play. You'll take the ball off the hooker, drop a middle underneath, but you're going to dummy to him, straighten, then cut it 90 degrees a second time, and you're going to hit the back rower on a second X. Now, just as Henry and Baz are about to run that first play, you're calling the next play, double D, double D. You're then telling the other front rower, his name is Sonny, and the second rower on that edge, his name is Jackson. You're telling those two players exactly what you want from them. Sonny, you've got the first D. Jackson, you've got the second. It's your ball. Get there, boys, get there. A bit wider and a bit flatter. By this point, Henry has taken his hit up and he's about to get taken to the ground in the tackle. Your hooker, his name is Max, is right behind the ruck, ready for a late offload, but also now looking in your direction for the next play. You make eye contact and say, yeah, Max, double D off me. Hit me early, hit me early. Now that hit me early call, it means that you don't want him to run, you don't want him to jump out and engage the markers, but you just want him to pass to you straight off the ground, no complications. A quick nod from Max tells you he's heard you and he understands. All right, now stop, step back a minute. This is what shadow ball work looks like. It's you on your own running through your sets down at a footy field. You're moving around, going through the exact motions with your feet, with your hands, and with your voice. If you're running that double X play, then you need to actually run that double X play at game pace. If you're organising Henry and Baz to take that first hit up, then use their names, point to the actual place on the field that you want them to get to for the start of the set, and use the same volume in your voice that you need to use when you're in a game situation. And you know what? Yeah, you're going to feel like a little bit of an idiot running around on a field on your own, calling out different sets, plays and names, but it's up to you. If you want to get better, then this is the way to do it. And it works really well. Now, like I said a couple of times earlier, for you to do this properly, you need a high level of knowledge of the different set structures your team runs, the plays that exist within those set structures, and the players on your team. And oftentimes, running the shadow ball work will help you understand where any gaps in your knowledge might be as you stumble over the plays themselves, or even the names of your teammates that you want actually running those plays. And when you're going down the park and you're doing this, don't just do it for one set type. Get used to different scenarios from different points on the field using any and all set types that you have available to you. We're talking kickoff restarts, get out sets from close to your own line. We're talking from a 20-meter tap kick, set restarts from a scrum, set restarts from a penalty tap kick in a good ball zone, and any and all possibilities. And that's how you do shadow ball work. On your own, running through your sets down at a footy field. And that's where everything we've been working on comes together. If you spend time there working through any gaps in your knowledge and ironing out the kinks in how you communicate and call plays, then when it comes to time to run ball work with your team at training, you'll feel confident and in control. Your leadership will be clear and your voice will carry weight. You'll be able to earn the respect of your teammates and guide them around the park the way a true halfback should. And when you get to the game itself, you'll be the one in the driver's seat making things happen. Trust me, because I'm Joe, and Joe knows.